Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about the energy content of fat, because there is a lot more to it than you might know. If you look this up in a nutritional book, you just have a value. But is it really that simple? No, it's not. Welcome to Black Belt Nutrition. My name is Patrick Dahlin and I'm a biochemist and a former pharmaceutical researcher. And today we will look into fats as it is in my world of biochemistry. If you ask a nutritionist what is the energy content of fat, you will get the answer 900 calories per 100 grams. But that is kind of an average. If you ask the same question to biochemists, you will get the response, which fats are we talking about? Because it varies a lot. Is it short chain fats, medium chains, or long chain? Is it saturated or unsaturated? That in fact have an impact on how many calories there are, and the difference is quite dramatic. For example, if you take one of the more common long chain fatty acids, hexadocanoic acid, that's a fat with 16 carbons. Fats are 18, 20, 22, 24 carbons, also the longer chains, but the saturated ones are usually 16, 18. The energy content of that is about 930 calories per 100 gram. But then if we start to step down and look at the shorter chains fatties like hepanoic acid, which is 7, the energy content of that is 760. And if we go down to hexanoic acid, also known as caproic acid, sometimes found in MCT oils, the energy content of that is around 700. So it's a 20-25% difference in the long chain and the medium chains. And if you go down to the shorter ones like pentanoic acid, pentanoate, is around 650. Propanate, it's around 500. And the smallest one, acetate, is around 350. So you see it ranges from 350 up to 1,000 calories for the longest one, the 20 carbon long one saturated. That's quite a difference. So sometimes when you hear about calories in and out, and you might even see studies on these things and they say it matches it or not match it. The tricky part is that they're always using average values. And for fat, this has a quite large impact if you eat shorter chain fatty acids that you find in butter, medium chain in coconut oil, but there are also other types of foods and also supplements that contain more or less of one or the other. And the same when you hydrogenate vegetable oils, saturate them, because unsaturated fatty acids are generally longer chain. They can be 22, 24, 26 in nature. When you saturate them, you get really large saturated or partly saturated fatty acids. They contain even more energy, and they're also difficult to handle for the body because they're not natural. We don't find them in natural food, but that's a different topic. My point here is that the calorie content of fats varies on the length and also to some extent on the saturation of the fat. You might, of course, jump to the next question. What about proteins? What about carbs? There is some differences there also. Not as large as in fats, because there you can cut it with half or double it up, or at least it can vary 20-30%, which is quite a lot, because when you look at studies and one person is 2,300 calories, the other one is 2,400, it's quite small differences that they try to figure out or try to determine if calories in, calories out is a perfect match or not. And then to measure the calories out, that's even more difficult to measure the calories in. Calories in you can measure by specifically looking what the person eat. And also the differences between sugars are not that large, but there are some percentages there, 5, 10 maybe, depending on which sugar you look at. Also, if you look at amino acids, there are differences, but usually with proteins it's averaged out. It doesn't make too much impact, but there's still some. And this is just in the total energy content. If you're going to find these things, you can't Google calories on a search engine and fats. You have to write probably enthalpy, which is the name that chemists and physics use for the heat energy or combustion energy. That is the total amount of energy in something. That is what you get out when you burn something up. Then you have exhausted all energy. But then it's also so that a part of that energy is available energy that you can use for work or store as fat, for example. And this is the same if you are building an automotive or electric car, gasoline car, oil burning, or our bodies. It's the same. You have the enthalpy, the total heat of combustion, and you have the available energy to do something useful with, which is referred to as Gibbs free energy. And if you include that in the equation, it becomes even more different compared to just reading the food label. So even I claim calories in, calories out count. It's correct. You can't, it's the law of thermodynamics. You can't get around them. It's like fool in gravity. We haven't figured out how to do it. We have not figured out how to fool the laws of thermodynamics in any system. But since the fooled labeling isn't telling you everything you need to know, and it's very difficult to measure the calories out, you have some studies where they match and some where they do not match. It's just a matter of how accurately they can measure things. And if you take into account the Gibbs free energy, how much energy you actually can use for work, then it can differ even more. For example, protein have less energy available. That is why some people say it's thermogenic, because some portion of that energy needs to be heat, and only some portion can become stored as fat or be used as work. In physics, we say how much energy can be used as to do work, and then that work can be that you run or that you store it. But some have the faith that it will inevitably just become heat. And that varies from molecule to molecule, how much of that energy, of the total energy, the heat energy, that you actually can use for something. And it's the same if you look at machines or anything else. In engineering, always talk about the enthalpy and the Gibbs free energy. These are not mentioned in the nutritional book, what I've seen at all. I've not talked to one medical doctor that knows anything about it. But if you really want to study this down to the smallest detail, if you're really going to have an argument about it, then you need to know these things. Otherwise, that argument will have simplification that are so large that they actually have an impact on your conclusions. So I guess I talked a little bit more than just fats, but that happens with me. I just geek out. So if you like the content, if you have questions about it, this is a topic that is quite easy if you know it, but very difficult if you have not encountered it before, because you don't hear it anywhere else except in physics, engineering, biochemistry. You don't hear it on the other side of natural science very often. Comment, like, share, and please subscribe if you want more updates from Black Belt Nutrition. Thanks for listening today.